All
Let's
right.
show them a real screen.
So, good morning, everybody. This is Neil and Joe. We both have our shirts on, so we're looking good. What are we going to talk about today, Brother Neil?
Let's talk about
Brexit.
No, God, no. That's definitely a query. That one. We're going to talk about sessions and selects, and we actually might mention queries as well. So that's the topic of the day, and we're going to try and keep it fun, but also very informative for everyone on the team here.
Focus on practical.
Yeah.
So, just a bit of history. In 2002, smart group of folks at the MIT Auto ID Lab, they defined the central sort of RF specifications for RFID. In 2004, that becomes Gen 2 V1, and that really is the governing logic of RFID in terms of the RF world, if you will. The industry gets going a little bit. There's customer inputs as to what they'd like to see as sort of standard in the industry, and that leads to Gen 2 V2. It is worth noting that all of the changes in this industry since 2004 have been basically features and software. The underlying RF structure has remained unchanged. So we're looking at a standard that 15, 17 years old.
Yep, that's old.
Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about philosophy here. There's a lot of challenges in our industry because a lot of this RFID industry likes to get into a lot of details and really make it even more complex for customers than in many ways than it needs to really be.
It's magic.
It's just magic, yes. But we'll make it really confusing magic. We have a very different philosophy. We really try to make things as simple as possible for our customers and therefore for your customers as well. Hence these webinars. We're trying to simplify some of the terminology here and take some of the magic out of it.
Yeah.
Or the complexity out of it, at least.
Yeah. So when we make things simple, we put dogs in. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay.
Nothing wrong with dogs.
So anyway, let's start talking about states. There's two states. State A is a rest state. So if you leave a tag alone, it will go to state A. And we're going to talk about sessions in a second, but ignore that. These states go to A. If you do things to them, you can often send them to B. You can think of B as being an awake or excited state.
Yeah, I kind of like to think of this as gravity is pulling on anything that's in the B state, trying to get it back to A. But the way it moves from B to A is what we'll talk about in a few moments.
Right. So, small twist. The tag has more than one A and more than one B state. All of the A states behave the same. If you put a tag in A and you don't do anything else to it, it stays there. Very easy. The B states, they don't all behave the same at all. And that takes us naturally to the discussion of sessions and a whole bunch of kind of neat secondary subjects. So how many are there, Neil?
Well, it just happens there's four of them. There's four states, very conveniently numbered from 0. So there's state 0, 1, 2, and 3. So there's 4 independent A states and B states.
Right. And 8 would be too many, and 2 would be not enough.
I like 5, but I think we'll stick with the 4.
So anyway, the session, they're grouped. So session A has an A and a B state. Session 1 has an A and a B, so on and so forth. But the B behavior is different for each session.
So let's take a look at that.
Yeah, so query is basically reading a tag. And the way that queries work, it's a conversation between the reader and the tag, and the reader and we're going to make things breezy. The reader basically says, all tags in this session and this state talk to me. You give me your EPC, and then after that, you switch state. So a couple points. One is that the state of the queried session changes after the tag is read. The states of other sessions don't change. And so if you're in session 2B and you're doing reading in session 1, the tag stays in, if you look in session 2, it'll stay up in B no matter what happens over here.
Yeah, so they're siloed. Each session is completely independent of the others.
Right. Then there's this kind of funny thing, single and dual. So single targets a particular state. So you can target session to state A, and only those tags in this are read, and when they're read, they go to B. Or you can target session B, and when they're read, they go back down to A. Dual, you just say, I want to look at that session 0, 1, 2, 3. But once you pick a session, you just read those tags, and it doesn't matter whether it's an A or B. If it's an A, after it reads, it goes to B. If it's an B, after it reads, it goes to A. So it goes A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B. In truth, we use this fairly rarely. It does generate a lot of tag reads, and sometimes those are nice. But generally speaking, we use single. Next.
Yeah. So dual basically is just toggling A to B, B to A.
Right.
Whereas single will only go one direction, A to B, or it will go B to A. Selects.
You can go ahead. I'm talking too much.
So selects allows you to basically start to take a look at a tag population and start to use sessions in order to kind of divide that population up. Usually a better way of talking about this than I do.
Yeah, so if you're in session 1, you can say, look, I want everybody in session 1 to go to A. It doesn't matter whether they're in A, they stay, or B, they go to A. The other sessions are unchanged. And again, it's very much like a query. What you do in one session doesn't have anything to do with the other one. So there's a real independence there. And in a second, you'll see us talking about that in terms of how do you manage your tag population.
Tag contraception, right?
Tag contraception. Yeah. Oh, but we forgot to tell you, the select on a lot of readers works not perfectly, and it doesn't send as many tags as you'd like back to the desired state. What makes it more complicated is it's kind of hard to diagnose that problem. And it's just a detail we've worked with a lot with our brethren at MTI, our testing here, to get this to work really smoothly here. So, as the knight would say, choose your reader wisely. Next. I don't know if that's funny or not, but we think it is.
And I like the screen.
Oh, the screen is from one of our customers. We have a customer in Europe that's doing the tagging of an art exhibit of this artist, and that's the title of that is called The Screen. Sessions are independent, and this is about as mathy as we're going to get. What happens in one session doesn't affect the other sessions. Selects, it's true for selects, it's true for queries. And we've been hinting about tag management. We'll push you into that next. But that allows a lot of cool things to happen. It allows you to define different zones in a building, a 2 zone and a 3 zone. It allows you to quiet a population when some things are happening, or read very rapidly if you're in another setting. Okay, so how do you go from A to B?
That's a good question. How do you go from A to B? So there's 2 ways that you can go from A to B, and that's either using the query command, which is basically accessing the tag or reading the tag. That's, for example, interrogating on the EPC, or you can just do a select, which does the same thing, tells the tag to go to the B state, but does it without accessing the tag or reading the tag.
B to A?
B to A? Well, how about that? Guess what? It's pretty damn similar. You can use either of the same commands, query to read the tag, and if it's in the B state, it will go to A, and obviously select without reading. But there's spicy ways of doing it.
You did better that time. Neil's having a tough time with saying spicy. There's spice needed.
I just like spicy food. I don't like talking about spicy
food. So anyway, let's talk about the sessions and how they affect how tags go from B to A. So if you're in session 0, you read to B, it comes right back to A. It doesn't matter what you do; those tags won't stay there. If you're in session 1, it'll go up to A and it'll hang there it'll go up to B and it'll hang there for a second or so. And that sort of quiets down the population because a tag will remove itself. If you're querying in state A, session 1, when it goes up to B, it's not available to query anymore, so the tag population quiets a little bit. And 2 or 3 are sort of special because once they've given up their information, they head up to B, and if they're in the RF field, they'll stay there. And even when you take the RF field out for a minute or so, they're still in B before they come back. And so this gives you a lot of latitude to do different things. If you want to read deeply, you can handle the situation one way. If you want to read a lot of tags really quickly, like you've got a car going by at 100 miles an hour, that's a session 0 type thing. So
yeah. One quick comment. We show here like go to A in 0.5 of a minute to a minute. The specs actually kind of suggest less than that, but our experience in actually measuring these is these types of times of 30 seconds to 2 minutes are more realistic.
Yeah, one last comment though. If you're looking for a specific type of tag behavior in 2 or 3, and even more specific, when you take it out of the field, you want a very, very long time period of it staying in B, or you want a pretty short time period. You need to look at different tags, and within a tag type from a tag vendor who's using a specific dye, they're fairly similar, but there's a lot of difference between the dye manufacturers.
Yeah.
Okay, so
how do I choose my sessions?
What is the right spice? So in session 0, tags are very yappy, and literally imagine yourself in a whole bunch of puppies that are yapping at you, and you're trying to hear a quiet conversation. That's the problem that these readers have. If you're presenting them with a lot of tags in session 0, they're just overwhelmed by all the RF crap that's being thrown at them. If they're easy to see tags, however, you get really high read rates and you can track things. And really high read rates are one of the figures of merit in the industry. We're not a huge fan of it, but reading 1,000 tags a second is kind of fun. In session 1, because the tags hang out in B for a little while, the population of tags gets quieter, and there's less reads per second that the reader has to contend with. And so you start to see those harder to see tags, and it's kind of a good compromise mode. Sessions 2 and 3, those are the well-behaved dogs. You stay, and they just stay there. And that allows you to quiet a tag population as you read it. So you read it, and suddenly there's not much going on, and it really is useful to find tough tags. It's also a great way to do tag population management and zone segregation. And it's kind of outside of this. We may do another webinar on it, or you can call us. But basically, if you're tracking movement and you have hard to find tags, there's some really, really fun stuff that you can do here.
Man, I wish I didn't have a session 0 boss.
That's harsh. We didn't rehearse that,
We didn't, do we? No.
Okay.
All right.
So this is kind of how our life goes. We meet a new customer and they say, well, here's my test. And we call them beauty contests. But it's a test that these customers put together. And typically they have their reader that they use. And it's a nice reader and it's doing well in the application. And they say, look, if you can't do what that reader does, you don't get the work. And we want work, so we try and pass these tests. So out of the box, M4 is a fine mode. We put it in S0 so that we can have a lot of tag reads. But the number of unique tags we see here is, 160 tags in 2 seconds, which is a far, far away from where we need to be. If we say, well, let's read the tags faster, and we come out FM0, and we're reading 1,000 tags or whatever a second in the beginning, it does give us a faster launch, and that lets us see some more tags, but still we're just a bit over 200. But if you really say, okay, let's explore what sessions can do with these read modes, and go ahead, Neil, you see that, oh my gosh, there's a wide variety of results that you see depending on what reader mode and what session you pick. And you see there, if, at 2 seconds, if we let M4 with a session 2 work on it for a while, we eke out a narrow victory. And one of the things, the purpose of this foil is really to show you that, gosh, sessions makes a big deal, particularly if you've got a 2 or 3 second read opportunity, which is quite often what you have when somebody's walking by you, when they've got a file full of stuff, or they're pushing a pallet past you. A larger point is there's a whole lot of details buried here. And what do you think? Do details matter?
I think details really matter.
Yeah, they do. So what you see in the premium readers is that these guys really have sweated a lot of the details. And this is kind of what happens when you work the details. So all of these results are basically the same. They are the same reader. But you can see as you start to really manipulate things and get it dialed in, you're seeing, instead of 300 tags, you're seeing 341. And instead of seeing it in 2 seconds, you get to 341 tags in, I don't know what this is, 1.2 seconds or something like that.
Yeah.
And all of that stuff we do in the background, so you don't have to sweat those bullets. But we wanted to point out, the details really do matter, and we encourage you to learn about the details or work with people that can deliver good details. Okay, cheat sheet. Go ahead.
So basically, FM0 is a nice demo. Gives a good demo. There's some certain.
There are times to use it.
Yeah, there are times to use it. So FM0, in all seriousness, it gives you a very high read rate, particularly on the tags that are easy to read. But if there's some difficult to read tags, it's probably not going to see them.
So I understand the demo thing. It's kind of funny, but there are good places you use FM0 if you're measuring something moving 50 miles an hour and you've got a real big tag on it so you can see it easy. FM0 can actually track something, and that's a pretty neat thing. So M4, much more sensitive, much slower. Tag read rates for M4 vary by reader, 150 to 200, maybe a little above. Sees a lot more tags. And with readers, there's a lot of details in the RF land that can make things a lot better. So S2, S3?
S2 and S3, these are the quiet ones. So you'll definitely see more tags, particularly if they're stationary tags. We have got a large number of tags in a warehouse or something of that type. S1, a little bit more noisy. And then, of course, S0 is very, very yappy, lots of noise, as we've been describing, because the tags will be, a lot of tags will be seen in a short amount of time.
Right. Okay. Summary. There's 4 sessions, 0, 1, 2, 3, and that's just the perfect number. There's two states, A and B, per session. State A is the rest state, where you wind up after a period of time. How you get from B to A depends on the session, and what session you use is really dependent upon your application. So S0 goes immediately back to A, and it's immediately available to be read again. Session 1 hangs out in B for a second or so that slows down the overall read rate and provides you a bit more sensitivity. S2 and 3 in RF, they stay in B, and that really, as you read the tags out of the population, it makes the tag population quieter and quieter and allows you to see quite nicely. In no RF, and after a couple minutes or so, it'll wind its way back to A.
Yep. So you've got really difficult to hear tags off there in the distance, really weak tags, then S2, S3 are probably a good way to go.
Yep.
All right, so we'd like to throw in a couple of quick tips that are absolutely nothing to do with the topic we've been presenting, so I don't see why today should be any different. So we'll give you a couple of quick tips here on Viswa for antenna.
Yeah, so we initially got involved in RFID making antennas, and it wasn't our field of expertise, so naturally we tested a bunch of antennas, and we continue to test things all the time here. So anyway, if you look at your garden variety 9 dBIC antenna, they actually vary a lot in performance. There's some really good ones out there. A good one we'll see in a tough situation is as much as twice the tags of another 9 dBIC antenna. There's a lot of things that matter there. One of them is VISWAR. So VISWAR is a mathematical expression that's related to how much is reflected back into the reader. And remember, the job of a reader is they send a watt of RF power out. Some of that hits a tag, it charges the tag up, and then the tag reflects a tiny bit of that power back into the reader. So they have these beautiful high sensitivity receivers on these. If you have an antenna with high VISWAR, what that means is that it reflects a significant amount of power back into the reader. So you can have 20 dBm of power coming back into the reader, and we say some silly things that are like wow and ouch, but that really overwhelms the capability of this very sensitive receiver to see the tag when you're blasting that much power. And readers are very sophisticated in the RF world. People have done great things there, but they just can't deal with that, and a lot of tags go missing. So our quick tip is, make sure that you're looking at antennas that have good low VISWAR. If you can, test them yourself, or have somebody you trust test them, and look for vendors that test all their antennas for VISWAR. And one of the funny things about antennas is that the nature of the beast is that if VISWAR is in good shape, the rest of the antenna is probably in good shape too. And yeah, we test every antenna we make.
Yeah, the analogy I like to use is, VISWAR is almost a bit like white noise in your ear. The worse, the higher the VISWAR, the more white noise is going on. So you're going to have you're going to have more difficulty in listening and hearing things in the background. So it's a bit like tinnitus.
Yeah, it is. So I think that's it. Thank you very much. And on these things, please give us your feedback.
Coffee cup.
We got a couple things to give out, actually.
Yes, we
more
do.
than one. Yeah, so
we put some coffee in the coffee cup?
It doesn't ship well. So we're going to start to give out door prizes. Neil and I are arguing real time about what to give away. So the first one is coffee cup like this. Okay. We'll randomly select one of y'all and send it out to you, so you've got a nice white coffee cup. The second one is, what are we going to do? Something that goes in a box.
Empty box?
Yeah, we got to fill the box.
We can fill a box, okay. Should we give them an antenna?
Yeah, so we had a reader situation where we needed to make left-hand antennas, so we designed and have introduced a left-hand antenna. So why don't we send them a nice mixed box of antennas?
Okay.
5 each.
We're going to give them 10 antenna?
Yeah, 5 right, 5 left. We'll just send it to them, and we're happy to help them get started with them. And there's a couple of new prizes for the next webinar. One of them is one of the prototypes of the new enterprise reader, and we are just putting those together. They're testing great. So on the next webinar, you're going to get a full-blown 33 dBm reader, Class 8 PoE, Ethernet switch. It's just decked out to the max reader just for coming.
Yeah. So we're going to pick someone at random from today's and send them a nice box. And we'll do
but there's the other one is a mystery gift for the next one. It fits in your pocket. Fits in your pocket.
Ooh, I wonder what that is.
All right. Anyway, thanks all, and please give us comments, questions. We're happy to meet with any or all of you after this meeting for anything you want to know.
Yep. Give us feedback on the presentation.